The night arrived quietly, without warning, yet it carried a strange tension that Laura Bennett could feel deep inside her chest as soon as the sun went down. The house in suburban Ohio felt larger than usual, every room echoing with absence. Her son Ryan was away at college, and the silence he left behind was heavy, pressing against her thoughts as she moved through the living room, switching off lamps one by one. Laura was in her early 40s, a woman who had spent most of her adult life putting others first. Since her divorce 3 years ago, nights like this had become familiar, long, quiet, and filled with memories she tried not to revisit. She told herself she was used to being alone, yet some evenings reminded her that loneliness was not about being by yourself, but about having too much time to think. Earlier that day, Ryan's friend Daniel Carter had arrived unexpectedly. Ryan had called in a rush, explaining that Daniel was in town for a job interview and needed a place to stay. Laura had agreed instantly, without much thought. Daniel was not a stranger. He had been part of their lives since middle school, always polite, always respectful, the kind of boy any parent trusted. She remembered him as a skinny teenager with messy hair, sitting at the kitchen table with Ryan, complaining about homework and dreaming about the future. Seeing him again that afternoon had surprised her. Daniel was no longer a boy. He stood taller, spoke with calm confidence, and carried himself differently, like someone who had learned the weight of responsibility. Still, Laura treated him as she always had, offering dinner, showing him the guest room, asking simple questions about his trip. Daniel thanked her more than once, his voice steady but thoughtful, as if staying in this house brought back memories he hadn't expected. After dinner, he went upstairs early, saying he wanted to prepare for the interview. Laura stayed behind, washing dishes slowly, letting the warm water distract her from the quiet growing around her. As night deepened, she made herself a cup of tea and sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone without really reading anything. Her mind drifted to Ryan, hoping he was safe, hoping he was happy. She thought about how fast life had moved, how one day she was packing school lunches, and the next she was living in a house that felt too empty. When she finally went upstairs, the hallway lights were dim, and the house seemed to breathe differently, every small sound louder than it should have been. Laura entered her bedroom, closed the door, and leaned against it for a moment, exhaling slowly. She changed into comfortable clothes and sat on the bed, staring at the family photos on her dresser. A younger version of herself smiled back, full of hope and certainty. She wondered when exactly she had started feeling invisible, not to others, but to herself. Just as she reached for the lamp, a sound broke the stillness, a faint step in the hallway, followed by another. She froze, listening. The floor creaked again, slow and careful, as if someone was unsure whether to continue. Her heart beat faster, not from fear, but from the sudden awareness that she was not as alone as she felt. Then came a soft knock on her door, hesitant, almost apologetic. Laura stood, smoothing her shirt, as if preparing for a moment she did not fully understand. When she opened the door, Daniel stood there, eyes slightly tired, hands clasped together like someone searching for the right words. He looked nervous, not like the confident young man she had seen earlier. "I'm sorry to bother you," he said quietly. I couldn't sleep." Laura studied his face for a brief second, noticing the stress beneath his calm expression. She stepped aside, allowing him in without questioning it, guided more by kindness than caution. They sat down, the room filled with an awkward but gentle silence. Daniel spoke first, explaining how nervous he was about the interview, how much pressure he felt to succeed, how lost he sometimes felt after college. His words came quickly, as if he had been holding them in for too long. Laura listened closely, offering small nods and soft responses, the way she had listened to Ryan countless times before. She recognized the fear in Daniel's voice, the fear of not becoming the person everyone expected. She reassured him, telling him that uncertainty was part of growth, that he had already come far. As she spoke, she noticed how attentively he listened, how his eyes stayed on her face, not wandering, not distracted. There was gratitude there, and something deeper she couldn't immediately name. For a moment, time seemed to slow, the conversation drifting from interviews to life, from goals to quiet disappointments. Laura felt an unfamiliar warmth, not romantic, but emotional, a reminder of what it felt like to be needed, to be heard. She quickly caught herself, standing up and gently bringing the moment back to reality. She told Daniel it was late and that rest would help him more than worry. Daniel agreed, standing as well, thanking her sincerely for her time and kindness. As he reached the door, he paused, turning back as if he wanted to say more, then stopped himself. Laura met his eyes, understanding without words that something delicate had passed between them, not an action, but an awareness. Daniel nodded respectfully and left the room, the door closing softly behind him. Laura remained standing, her hand still near the door, her thoughts racing faster than before. She realized that nothing improper had happened, yet the night had shifted something inside her. The quiet house felt different now, not heavier, but sharper, as if it had revealed a truth she wasn't ready to face. She returned to her bed, turning off the lamp, staring into the darkness as her mind replayed the knock, the conversation, the look in Daniel's eyes. Part of her felt unsettled, another part felt awake for the first time in years. As sleep finally came, Laura knew this night, simple as it seemed, had marked the beginning of something she did not yet understand, something that would test her emotions, her boundaries, and the life she believed she had already figured out. The next evening, Laura felt a quiet tension lingering in the house, a subtle echo of the conversation from the night before that she couldn't shake off. She had spent the day keeping busy, folding laundry, tidying up, making dinner, but every task felt mechanical, as if her mind was elsewhere. Daniel, unaware of the emotional weight of last night, had spent most of the day in the guest room, preparing for his interview and reviewing notes. Yet, as evening approached, Laura noticed him lingering in the hallway, stopping outside rooms he didn't usually pause by, and once, she caught him staring out the window for longer than necessary, lost in thought. Around 9, she was sitting in the living room reading a book when she heard the faint sound of the floor creaking, soft and hesitant, moving closer to her. Before she could think, there was another knock on her bedroom door, lighter this time, almost cautious. She hesitated, her heart beating faster, and then opened it to see Daniel again, his posture careful, his expression uncertain but honest. "I didn't sleep well," he admitted quietly, stepping inside when she gestured. Laura motioned toward the chair, and they both sat, the space between them filled with a strange energy, familiar yet charged with emotions neither fully understood. Daniel began speaking, this time not about interviews, but about his life, the responsibilities he felt, the pressure of being away from home, and the loneliness of growing up. His voice wavered occasionally, revealing vulnerability he rarely showed Ryan or anyone else. Laura listened, offering soft reassurances, sharing memories of her own struggles with fear and expectations, creating a bond built on honesty and empathy. The air felt warmer, more intimate, without crossing any boundaries, a space where two people could connect over shared understanding and the quiet ache of life's challenges. As the conversation continued, Laura noticed Daniel's eyes linger on her, not inappropriately, but with admiration and gratitude, a silent recognition of her kindness and patience. She felt a mix of emotions she hadn't expected, pride, nostalgia, and a subtle longing for connection that went beyond friendship. They spoke about hopes, regrets, and the fleeting nature of moments that shape a person, sharing laughter over small anecdotes from Ryan's childhood and quiet sighs over life's uncertainties. The dialogue carried a rhythm, each word deepening the trust between them, a trust that could easily have been mistaken for something more if not held carefully. Eventually, Laura realized the time and suggested Daniel try to rest, reminding him gently that tomorrow would be a demanding day. He stood, lingering at the doorway, his hand brushing the doorframe as though unsure whether to leave or continue the conversation. Laura's heart raced, aware of the invisible boundary that existed between them, a line neither wanted to cross, yet both had felt the pull of emotional closeness. Daniel nodded, thanked her once more, and left, closing the door softly behind him, leaving Laura leaning against it for a moment, absorbing the intensity of the night. She returned to her bed, thoughts racing, trying to reconcile the comfort she had felt with the underlying tension that came from realizing the strength of unspoken emotions. Laura understood that what had occurred wasn't romantic or improper, but it was significant, a moment of vulnerability and trust that reminded her of her own desires for connection and understanding. The house seemed quieter after he left, but the silence now carried a different weight, a reflective energy that lingered as she lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. She recognized that boundaries had been respected, yet a door had been opened in her heart, revealing emotions she had carefully tucked away over the years. That night, sleep came slowly, tangled with thoughts of Daniel's honesty, the warmth of his presence, and the undeniable truth that sometimes human connection could be as powerful as any romance, even when nothing inappropriate occurred. Laura realized that their bond was changing subtly, growing in depth, and that navigating these feelings would require self-awareness and restraint. The night ended with her feeling both unsettled and alive, aware that the next encounter could be equally charged, and that the quiet, simple moments shared between them had already left an imprint neither would soon forget. Setting the stage for further emotional complexity and growth, morning arrived softly, painting Laura's kitchen in gentle light, but it carried with it a sense of tension that had lingered since the previous night. She moved automatically, brewing coffee, arranging plates, and glancing out the window at the quiet street, though her mind was far from ordinary morning routines. Thoughts of Daniel, his hesitant smile, the depth in his eyes, the way he had trusted her with his worries, kept replaying. She reminded herself that nothing inappropriate had occurred, it was simply the closeness of shared vulnerability that made the house feel charged, like a new chapter had begun without a single action changing. Daniel appeared downstairs, dressed neatly, ready for his interview, but the tension was evident in his posture, the careful way he moved, as if even ordinary gestures carried extra weight. Their eyes met for a fleeting moment, each glance loaded with unspoken acknowledgement, and both quickly looked away, trying to mask the stir of emotions beneath the surface. Conversation began cautiously, light and practical, about the weather, traffic, plans for the day, but underneath the small talk, there was a silent understanding, an emotional thread linking them without words. Laura noticed subtle changes in Daniel, the way he smiled a fraction longer when she spoke, the way he seemed to hang on every word, seeking reassurance in the familiarity of her presence. She realized that the night's emotional intimacy had not left him untouched, just as it had not left her unaffected. As he prepared to leave, Daniel paused at the door, the professional exterior slipping for a brief instant to reveal vulnerability. "Laura, about last night," he began carefully, "I hope I didn't make you uncomfortable." She shook her head gently, offering a small, reassuring smile, understanding fully what he meant, but appreciating the care he took in expressing it. "You didn't," she said softly, "but it reminded me that some lines exist for a reason." He nodded, a quiet relief washing over his expression, and stepped out into the morning, leaving Laura in the warmth of her kitchen, yet feeling a lingering echo of connection that seemed to pulse beneath the ordinary quiet of the house. She sat at the table long after he had gone, letting the coffee grow cold, reflecting on the intense, but fleeting intimacy of human connection, how shared vulnerability could create bonds that were meaningful yet carefully contained. Thoughts of Ryan, her life as a mother, her past relationships, and her own unmet desires mingled in her mind, creating an intricate map of reflection that both unsettled and empowered her. She recognized that she had experienced something rare, a night where genuine understanding and emotional closeness had created tension without crossing any moral or ethical lines, a reminder of the depth of human connection outside romance or physicality. The morning continued, the sunlight spilling across the kitchen counter, but Laura's awareness had shifted. She understood that life often presented moments of clarity in unexpected forms, and that the strength of a person was tested not just in actions, but in restraint and understanding. Daniel's visit, brief as it was, had revealed the emotional layers that existed between people who knew each other deeply, a subtle mix of admiration, trust, and respect that left lasting impressions. Laura felt a renewed sense of self-awareness, realizing that she valued being seen, being understood, and being appreciated in ways that went beyond the routine of life or familial responsibilities. That morning, she moved through her day differently, conscious of the invisible threads connecting her to Daniel's presence and the quiet intensity of the previous evening. She understood that sometimes emotional intimacy could awaken feelings and reflections more profound than physical closeness, that human bonds could be charged with meaning simply through honesty and trust. As she went about her daily chores, she replayed Daniel's words in her mind, noticing how much weight they carried, how they reflected the pressures of a young man on the verge of adulthood, seeking guidance and validation from someone he respected deeply. She recognized the subtle beauty in the interaction, two people respecting boundaries while simultaneously exploring emotional depth, finding connection in a way that neither had expected. By the time the morning transitioned to afternoon, Laura felt both lighter and more aware, carrying the knowledge that meaningful bonds could exist in quiet moments, in unspoken acknowledgments, and in the careful navigation of closeness without overstepping lines. She understood that life's most potent lessons often came in brief, unexpected encounters that challenged perspectives and awakened introspection. That day, she resolved to honor her emotions, to value her own needs for connection and recognition, and to carry forward the delicate awareness that had been awakened by a night of shared vulnerability. The experience had left a mark, not scandalous, not improper, but deeply human, a reminder that emotional closeness could teach, comfort, and awaken self-understanding in ways that ordinary interactions rarely did, setting the stage for continued reflection and growth in her journey of self-awareness and emotional resilience. Weeks passed after that quiet morning, and life at the Bennett household slowly returned to its familiar rhythm, but Laura carried with her the subtle awareness of what had transpired during Daniel's stay. Ryan returned from college full of stories and laughter, oblivious to the emotional depth his mother and his friend had briefly shared, and the house once again buzzed with the ordinary noise of family life, yet Laura noticed a new layer in her perspective, a heightened sensitivity to human connection and fleeting moments of honesty. Daniel's interview had gone well, and he sent a short, polite message expressing gratitude for her hospitality and support, and Laura replied warmly, careful to maintain boundaries while acknowledging the genuine respect they held for each other. Their communication remained brief, practical, and polite, yet it carried the invisible thread of understanding that had developed during those intimate nights of conversation. Laura reflected often on the lessons the experience had offered, the realization that emotional closeness could awaken desires and reflections without requiring action, that human connection had many forms, and that strength and dignity lay in choosing restraint over indulgence. She noticed subtle changes in herself, a renewed appreciation for her own emotional needs, an understanding of the value of being seen and heard, and the quiet joy of witnessing someone grow with encouragement and empathy. Daniel's presence had reminded her that relationships could be meaningful without being romantic or physical, and that influence and trust could shape people's lives as profoundly as love or friendship. Evenings found Laura standing by the window more frequently, reflecting on the past weeks, appreciating her independence, and recognizing the importance of self-respect. The house, once heavy with silence, now felt lighter, carrying a sense of emotional richness born not of drama or scandal but of quiet understanding. She occasionally remembered the gentle knock on her door, Daniel's hesitant voice, and the sincerity in his eyes, and she smiled inwardly at how a brief encounter could leave a lasting imprint on one's heart and mind. Laura also realized that maintaining clear boundaries had strengthened her sense of self, reaffirming that integrity and emotional intelligence mattered more than yielding to fleeting impulses. She thought about Ryan, grateful that the family's bond remained intact, and understood that her role as a mother was balanced by her own need for reflection, personal growth, and awareness of life's emotional subtleties. Weeks became months, and Daniel's messages remained courteous, his progress shared without overstepping, reflecting mutual respect and an unspoken acknowledgement of the lessons learned. Laura's heart, once quietly yearning for connection, felt content in recognizing that some experiences were meant to teach and awaken, not to consume or complicate life. The emotional resonance of those nights lingered as a soft, guiding force, reminding her that true strength often lies in appreciating beauty without possession, in nurturing respect without expectation, and in embracing lessons without regret. Laura continued her days with grace and renewed perspective, her interactions with Daniel now filtered through understanding, restraint, and kindness, recognizing that the moments they shared had shaped them both subtly yet profoundly. She reflected on her own journey, appreciating how the encounter had awakened emotional depth, empathy, and a heightened awareness of human vulnerability, and she carried forward the knowledge that meaningful connections could exist in brief, honest exchanges that respected boundaries. Life unfolded normally, yet the awareness of the emotional truths they had touched lingered as a quiet strength, shaping Laura's outlook on relationships, personal integrity, and the beauty of subtle human connections. She found satisfaction in observing that neither her life nor Daniel's had been derailed. Instead, both had grown in understanding, maturity, and appreciation for the nuanced ways people influence each other's lives. Laura knew that the story of that one night, and the quiet conversations that followed, would remain with her, not as a tale of infidelity or temptation, but as a testament to the power of empathy, emotional honesty, and the delicate balance of human connection. In moments of reflection, she smiled at the invisible thread that had connected her and Daniel, understanding that the experience had revealed more about her own desires, resilience, and emotional intelligence than it had about him, and that some chapters in life were meant to illuminate rather than complicate. The house felt warmer, the walls echoing not just with ordinary life, but with the quiet strength she had cultivated, a reminder that dignity, self-respect, and emotional awareness could coexist with vulnerability, trust, and care. Laura's journey through that brief, emotionally charged period had shown her the depth of her own heart, the capacity to feel and reflect without crossing boundaries, and the importance of honoring both her emotions and her principles. The story of Daniel's visit became a cherished memory, a subtle turning point that reinforced her values, taught her the power of listening and being present, and demonstrated that meaningful human connection did not require romance, physical closeness, or drama to leave a lasting impact. As she looked forward, Laura felt grounded, aware of the emotional growth she had achieved, and ready to embrace life with a new understanding of how moments of honesty, empathy, and restraint could shape a person's inner world without disrupting the life they had built, leaving her with the quiet satisfaction of having navigated a delicate chapter with grace, reflection, and profound emotional insight.